Welcome to another Future Hamburg talk on hydrogen. Due to the corona situation in a virtual room, my name is Heinrich Klingberg and I'm happy to welcome as our guests today Dr. André Walter, Airbus Head of Plant and Industrial Site Hamburg, and Nicole Dreyer-Langlet, Airbus Vice President Research and Technology Germany. In this talk, we want to reflect on how aviation in general and Airbus in particular is aligning itself with the requirements of climate protection, specifically, of course, with hydrogen. And we also want to discuss what are the main political, legal and economic hurdles that need to be overcome to really install hydrogen in aircraft on a commercial basis, and what the milestones are. So my first question goes to André, and the question is, we all know that at the moment the aviation industry is in a difficult phase. However, Airbus has been very clear in your information saying sustainable air travel in our lifetime. That's your goal. Could you please explain for us a bit what the general setting for that is and specifically what the role of hydrogen is? André.
Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you, Heinrich. Yes, you're fully right. Airbus is committed to meet the Paris Agreement targets, and we want and we will lead the decarbonization of the aviation sector in cooperation with all our stakeholders. Mm-hmm. Carbon neutral aviation, I think it's not only possible, I think it's achievable, and we are all setting the first, let's say, scene for our first zero emission aircraft by 2035. And for sure also the extended use of sustainable aviation fuels and also H2.
Yeah, and if you do so, what would you think are the core priorities? You say a commercial airline by 2035. That is, of course, a longer horizon, but I understand you're already in the process.
Yes, for sure. First of all, I think aircraft industry and aircraft technology anyhow is committed to reduce fuel burn. This was our business already before, because our customers are focusing on less fuel burn because this is cost for them, cost saving for them. So for other step forward, we have defined three main areas where we want to act. First of all, for sure, we need a renewable energy supply in our aircraft. So aviation is dependent on H2. And I think on the way to H2, it's SAF. And we are forcing politics and also the overall society and ourselves, we are playing our role there to promote the development and the ramp up and the availability of hydrogen infrastructure and also of sufficient SAF on the market. Yeah. So this is the first pillar. Second pillar, and this is also dedicated to our IPCEI related to the hydrogen program. I think overall we need air traffic approach in Europe. So this cannot be done by one nation only. Mm-hmm. We need to start at least in Europe to have a first glimpse on how to make this real, this technology. And for sure, Europe could be then the core for finding a solution overall worldwide because we have airports and airlines worldwide. And last topic for sure is developing the technology itself for our product, the aircraft technology. First of all, we want also to focus on a decarbonization of our production processes. So on our premises, that's one thing. And second thing, we are developing technologies for producing in green aircraft and make it happen that we are using fuel cells or a direct H2 burn.
Yeah, that sounds a very clear view to me, even though I would like probably to go a bit more into the details with Nicole. Last year you announced a joint venture with the industry, with a joint company called Airstrike. I know they're already working today. Could you probably tell us a bit more about the goals of this cooperation and what the activities will be for now and in the near future?
Sure, with pleasure. Thank you. So basically, the Airstrike joint venture is with our partner Elring-Klinger, who has actively pursuing activities in the area of research and development of fuel cells over the more than 20 years. So actually, Elring-Klinger is bringing a large and well-positioned expertise in this field. And as such, we want to use this joint venture in order to develop and validate the technologies behind. What we especially would like to focus on is not only the development, but also the industrialization aspects, which is one of the key expertise why we have actually selected Elring-Klinger, who is the best in class in the combination of both.
Yeah, and that's very much in line with what Dr. Walter said in terms of really bringing the technology to the market and not still sticking to research and development. Anyhow, in the past years, there have often been discussions of what type of fuel cells is probably the best suitable for aircrafts. And does the collaboration with Elring-Klinger mean now that the discussion is ended and a decision has been made regarding PMFC, or is that still an open question?
Well, from our point of view, and based on the knowledge, the PEM technology indeed is the most promising one. This is why we have selected Elring-Klinger. The emphasis right now is currently on the low temperature, but we believe over the next couple of years, actually low temperature and high temperature PEMs, they will actually evolve in a way that we will see a lot of synergies between both, and they will come close together.
So it means you're not only at low temperature, you're also in high temperature systems. I would assume this specifically has to do with combined heat and power systems in the aircraft?
Well, from based on our research that we have in the multifunctional fuel cells, we're actually considering really to use the spill-offs, but rather in the area of the inert air, which could, for instance, replace the halon itself. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So there's, besides the combination, there's other cross-system synergies, for example, also on the safety aspect, I understand, and also when it comes, for example, the replacement of fresh water.
Exactly. Perfect. Exactly.
Yeah. Now coming back to Andre, you seem to focus quite strongly on hydrogen. Many experts in airlines and also at the airports see the use of synthetic kerosene as the next steps. What's your view on that?
Overall, for the future, we see three ways. First of all, the hydrogen, as you have mentioned. Secondly, also the fuel cells. And third, the synthetic fuels. And we are following all options. So anyhow, we are working already on the SAF technology, and we are able to fly today already with 50% of SAF in our aircraft. Okay. And we have just started a test flight with our A350 with 100% of SAF. So this is one of the solutions we are following, and we see it also for the long-range flights, that this could be, first of all, in short-term available, and secondly, for the long-range flights, it will be maybe not work without the SAF.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So functionally speaking, you do a kind of decision regarding the requirements in the length of the flight, the consumption of the aircraft and so on regarding the fuels. So hydrogen, I would understand, in midterm would then be the fuel for, let's say, trans-European flights, but not for the long flights. Is that right?
Yes, we will see for sure. We are developing the technology maybe to be able also to use the H2 for long-range flights. But as we see today, SAF would be the most promising solution so far.
Yeah, okay. Now, another technical question more for Nicole. What about the selected state of aggregation of the hydrogen in the aircraft? And yes, if I understand right, that's probably liquid. So liquid always brings specific problems like insulation and so on. What's the status there?
Yes, for sure. Liquid hydrogen is what we're looking at. We have also investigated in gaseous hydrogen, but actually the weight penalty as well as the volume is quite challenging in this area. That's why we're convinced the liquid hydrogen is the perfect choice. Indeed, you're mentioning it. The installation of the storage is key. But with a well installation, which is very likely a twin insulated wall, there can be very, very good effects in terms of insulation, but also with a very good thermal management. You can actually imagine a way that you can even have overnight storage, aircraft parking, and so on, with very little boil-off effects, and that well managed. So that should be manageable. It is all a challenge overall, for sure. That's why we're talking about future technologies, but we believe it is very realistic in the choice.
So your main core view is liquid, other forms such as ammonia, are they being discussed?
They are being discussed. Of course, we're looking at everything in principle, or we're observing what the world is also developing globally. But actually, such things like ammonia or others, there is quite a high challenge in terms of chemical reaction, which will again add a lot of weight, which is in the aeronautic, obviously one of the key concerns we're having. So for the time being, that seems not to be a realistic option for us.
Yeah, probably with liquid you're in line with other sectors like, for example, trucks and so on that also are heading for liquid. So there seems to be synergies there also. But the question besides the aircraft itself is, of course, at the airport you need to store large quantities of liquid hydrogen then, which brings specific questions as well. I would assume that you are in discussions with the airports how this problem can be overcome.
Yes, of course. We're in fact in contact with several airports and investigating exactly this. Obviously, safety is key, as a key concern for all of us in aeronautic, but globally, also including the airports. But in fact, yes, it needs to be very well managed. And yes, there's a lot of expertise that needs to be built. But when we're talking, for instance, to our firemen, in terms of how hydrogen reacts, there is a lot of benefits which still need to be carefully looked at, for sure. But just for instance, the flames themselves, there is less heat subtraction from the flames themselves. So for many reasons, hydrogen, in fact, in terms of even if it is on fire, has positive effects. But it needs to be carefully managed, of course.
Yes, of course. But so I've been in the hydrogen business for quite a while, doing buses and the likes, and we've been doing that for 20 years and we never had a serious incident. And that's, of course, what we wish for the aircraft also. To Andre again, the conversion is certainly associated with a great deal of technical and economic effort. But still the framework, the conditions, price-wise as well as regarding legal aspects, is not where we probably need it. They're still unclear. So what would be your take? What needs to be changed and what are the priorities?
First of all, I think we need to be faster in the overall administrative work of what we are doing in Europe and also in the nations. Overall, we need a European approach and a kind of EU hydrogen strategy and a roadmap, which must be available and agreed by all countries and then to be followed up by all countries. But for sure, we need a legal framework, which is ensuring that if we have found the technical solutions, that we are not blocked by legal topics to make this happen and to really use hydrogen and also SAF for the future. And we need to find also a legal framework to enable the investment, which needs to be done now. Because for sure, some companies are still reluctant because they do not know is the market really there. So this must be forced and supported by the Commission and by the nations. And overall, I think we need also to find a way to boost this area with funding. Maybe we take the EU ETSs to bring them back in the system to make a development of this area.
Yeah, and also probably IPSI could be a means to support, at least on the CapEx side. When it
For sure.
comes to OpEx, would you think that, for example, a system like carbon contracts for difference could be helpful?
Yes, why not? This is surely one of the possible solutions. I think at the end, also in this funding area, we need to find a framework with different kind of funding and contracts which are supporting this technology.
Yeah, okay. Due to the complexity of this transformation process, you mentioned that this certainly led by Airbus, but this needs to be an initiative that goes beyond Airbus to the aircraft industry in general, specifically in Europe. So what's your position there? Is there also, besides your industry in general, is there also synergies with other sectors, like, for example, maritime? Would you see that?
Yes, for sure. And as we are here speaking for Hamburg, I think it's clear that we need to find cooperation with other sectors. And it's not only automobile industry, it's also maritime technologies. We are in close cooperation with several stakeholders here. And at the end, we need to find an overall common solution worldwide, not only in Europe, because also for the maritime technology, they need to find harbors where they can get the H2 on board. So we need also to create a distribution network, not only for the airports, also for the harbors, for instance.
Yeah. I would probably see synergies with sectors like cruise ships, for example.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Fully agreed, fully supported.
Yeah, perfectly fine. So back to Nicole, you were saying that commercial use by 2035, that is quite some horizon. May I ask what the steps in, so we have DLR and others, they are preparing small aircrafts, two-seaters, probably multi-seat first versions in the next couple of years. Is there something we can expect from you in the timeline until 2035? And could you just give us a glimpse on that?
Sure. So you already mentioned it. Exactly. This is our ambition. By 2035, we want to be the first OEM that provides in that range zero emission aircraft. On the way, there's still a lot of developments that are taking place right now. Hydrogen, we talked about hydrogen propulsion was very likely help us reaching that ambition. Therefore, we're right now working on several what we call technology bricks. We talked about fuel cell, for instance, as well, which will help us to determine what in the end will be the right and the best concept aircraft. So today we have several concept aircraft in mind, but the selection of the real final aircraft model will be determined by rather the technology bricks. So that will be in the next couple of years ongoing until we can determine here. And in the meantime, not to forget about the flying fleet, which will continue to fly for quite a while. So even if we bring this zero emission aircraft to the market, 2035, we still will have a very large flying fleet, which we need to take care of also in terms of emissions. Here we're working also in the meantime to further improve by technology, by design, a lot of design efforts, wingtips that we have already seen. We have seen the Neo engines and the more efficient engines in the past. So there's a lot that is still ongoing, a lot that has already been achieved, but I truly believe there will be more to come to address also that market. And last but not least, Andre mentioned it already earlier, the ZAF. Here we see really a good contribution in combination with new aircrafts that could also help on the still flying fleet. Today we already have certified 50% ZAF. Is possible, and we're further working on increasing it to 100% SAF and want to certify that. So just to give some figures and means, with a current state of 50% of SAF, which is possible already as of today, we're already reducing the emissions of CO2 by 50%, which is quite significant and very good results already. So this is what you can expect over the next couple of years and more in this area. I'm truly convinced.
Yeah. So that sounds like a well-defined toolbox you're already having there.
Absolutely.
Would that also include, for example, refurbishment of aircraft?
We're looking in all options, and of course, we need to also look. As I said, it is really important. The flying fleet out there is really important to us. So we will have to address that in the future, and we're considering all options, of course.
Yeah. And besides the technology, certainly in a different form, but I would probably assume that drones and air taxis could also be something that fuel cells might potentially be used in?
Of course, we're not doing that in the Airbus commercial sector, but in rather other divisions. But this is absolutely right. We're having a lot of synergies at Airbus group level really here, which is then, as you mentioned, the UAM and the drones as well, which we're very likely will see the same sort of technology bricks, I would call it, or similar technology bricks in the future as well. Absolutely.
The last question regarding the network. As you know, we have set up a hydrogen network with relevant members really from industry specifically, and also from science and research. Here in Hamburg, with some 250 members within the network, there is plans for first big electrolyzers in our harbor. We're even discussing with the harbor economy the import of large volumes of green hydrogen, let's say from the Mediterranean or wherever, where cost-wise this can probably be produced cheaper than here in Germany, and we could do a mixed calculation there. You are a member within that Hamburg network. Is that helpful for you to have that? And do you see synergies, not only research-wise, but also, let's say, when it comes to questions of safety or also the production of hydrogen and the origin itself?
Absolutely. Actually, we're really excited about this because I see that as a great opportunity that we have here in Hamburg. As you mentioned already, a lot of it. We are close by. We have the wind energy, so it is possible very close by, I would say, which is one very important, obviously very relevant point. But as you said, also in the terms of technology development, there's a lot ongoing right now in the region of Hamburg. And actually, this consortium where we're together and exchanging, where we're supporting each other really with expertise, where we're growing the expertise together, exchanging. I think that's a key asset that cannot be underestimated, and that we all, I think, are very supportive about and very happy about. As you mentioned, we are working collaboratively also with other industries. The harbor is really close by. The ships are there, which also look at liquid hydrogen. So all this in the combination with the airport also integrated in Hamburg, I think it is really a lot of elements that we have enhanced to really jointly build the future there. It's very exciting indeed.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this information.
Heinrich, if I may compliment, if I may compliment this comment from Nicole, I think this area is a very specific one, because we have to work on R&D on one side, on infrastructure, on legal framework, on economic topics, on safety, and therefore this collaboration is really much appreciated from us. We are very happy with the boost which is given by the politics also here in Hamburg, by Mr. Michael Westhagemann, for instance. And overall, the community is growing very fast, and this is really exceptional.
So thank you very much. We're happy to hear that from industry always. So I think this is perfect for the closure of our talk here today. We're happy to follow up on this, and thank you for being with us today and for all the information given. I think that has been a very good insight in what is happening in the aviation sector, and I do believe that you are definitely one of the leaders here, sector-wise, but also as a company itself. So thanks for today, and happy to talk to you again in the next time. So thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.